This cherry is a bit of an ongoing story on my channel, and I have grown this from a field grown material, a field grown trunk. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't recall, I'll have to check it, I pruned off all the branches and made a little short, and it's one of my most watched videos. In that video, a lot of people were commenting, you have ruined the tree. And therefore I'm now following it a little bit through time. So last year I did the initial wiring of the branches and setting it. And now spring is halfway. I'm going to wire these branches as well. I'm going to prune it out a little bit, but the lower branches I want to allow to extend. The top, I've already pruned the growing tips earlier this year. And you see this has stopped growing. It is nice and ramified. Now these get a little bit of wire on the first, I don't know, 4 inches or so. It's very clear the repotting of this winter has done nothing to the tree to bother it. It just continues pushing with growth. I tip pruned, of course, in early spring. And now these lower branches are again getting quite long, and I need to sort through and decide which ones am I going to keep and how long am I going to keep them. This lower branch is still allowed to thicken up. It might get 2-3 times as thick. So I'm thinking about just leaving this in place and letting it run. Here, this connection, the scar, is halfway healed over, so it can do with a little bit more. I don't like how this branch comes from the inside and comes back out, but I think I'm just going to leave it as a character flaw. And here there's a few branches I'm going to prune off. No matter which way I look at it, this side branch actually crosses the trunk line, so this really needs to go. And it is a bit of a shame because it had started to heal. But well, the tree will just have to work on it again. Just like that. I'll clean it up later and then I'll use some cut paste also over the wound. But here you can see very clearly how the bark has started to push over the wound. Now this branch is from that awkward branch here at the bottom. And it comes also across the main trunk. And I don't want that. So this short one, like this, and this one I don't want it to fatten up much, so I'm just going to prune it back to the first one that goes outwards, just about here. This one comes from the front of the trunk, that is, unless I keep the trunk like this, but then even this main branch in the back is going to compete. It's all on the same height. I don't want any more bulging. Off it goes. In fact, let's take that off deeper to discourage more buds forming and hopefully get a bit of a smooth healing here. This is a very small cut and I'm not going to use cut paste on this. Then I have a branch here in the back which is okay. This branch here, again crossing another branch which is not really nice, and I'm not going to wire it out, just like that. I can of course clean up little pruning buds now. Just like that. This is actually quite nice and I might just wire it lightly. Let's avoid too much thickening of this party here. That also means actually reduce the length of these. Reduce this a little bit more. Just like that. Now it stays a little bit compact. It is quite horizontal, which is nice when it is flowering. Now here, this back branch, there's some small branches at the base which are just going to cause extra swelling, so I'm taking those off. And this one is about 1 centimeter or 2 from the trunk, which is still okay, and I can use it later on and I can wire it. This I said I was going to leave in place. Here's a pruning stump. Let's remove that. Another one here and here. Right, all cleaned up. Then on the top, this pruning scar I've just made bigger. That means that these branches will have to run, but which one? So there's a big one going up, and it's tempting to make sure that this one gets fatter, but I can also say no, I want the lowest one to be fatter. And for that I need to make sure that the upper ones don't grow that much. And that is what I'm going to do. This way I keep these branches here for future development of a pad. This one I'm also going to shorten to a little side branch, and this one I'm just going to let run. Eventually I'm going to cut back to this little side branch right here. So a little bit more clear situational here. These branches I'm leaving in place so they can make a little pad here. This branch is the sacrifice that's running here, and I'm letting fatten up. So this base fattens up, but also this wound heals. This I'm going to clean out a little bit more. And this little side branch is eventually going to be the main branch extension. And I'll clip it off right there once this has fattened up enough to close that scar. This is a fairly large cherry. The higher up you go, the more difficult it gets to see. Let's remove a few of these leaves here on the inside to encourage the backbudding. There's a nice little side branch here to the left for you and one to me here as well. And then we have this extension. Now I don't want any heavy branches above, well, this level. So this is just going to be clipped back, and I'm going to clip this one back as well. And I might add a little bit of wire to give it a little bit of a shape and place it into this space. Here I pruned the tips out in spring. That worked really well. It hasn't started growing again. I'll remove a little bit of the leaves just to keep the air ventilation in here. Here on top the tips have started to grow, and I'm just going to prune those out again. And I'm not going to do all that much here. I'm just keeping this short. It will ramify by itself over time because of the repeated pruning, and I'm not going to wire here anymore either, probably. If it gets too dense, too many branches from the main trunk, I might have to remove one or two, but so far so good. Now just a small piece of 2 mils of aluminium will do. It really is to give this a little bit of shape and get the branches horizontal, right? Nothing special. So I'm also not going to pay a lot of attention to it. Just slap it on. Don't cover any buds. Don't break more leaves off, and definitely don't break any growing tips. Right, that's in place. So just a tiny little wiggle to it. That way, this is pretty much the first front branch that we're going to see from the front of the tree. Nicely positioned to create a flower display here in the front of the tree. It shouldn't come all the way down, it needs to come up a little bit more, just like this. That way the branches will continue their upward movement. Now I still have these two sacrifices here, and I'm just removing the leaves here at the base so they reduce the shade a little bit on the rest of the tree. And these are vertical enough to start growing by themselves upwards. This is all fine. Ready to go back into the garden for another couple of months. And who knows, middle of summer I'll have another look. Well, we've reached July and these branches are really getting long, and I'm now going to remove them here at the base and here as well, so that they could fatten up more, to be honest, but I want these cuts to also have a chance to close off and compartmentalize before winter. So no time like now. And because we're going to get quite nice weather, I'm going to leave these and not going to cover these wounds. These should heal by themselves. Now here, I have here a side branch, but a little bud on the other side as well. So I'm just going to go all the way back to here. Here at the base I don't need any more branches, so I remove these as well. Thinning them out. This I'm just going to allow to grow. This of course as well, same story. Remove. Extension in the top. Take out the pruning tips, take out the growing tips, and that is pretty much it for now. Now it can go back into the garden for the rest of the season. Considering this is a grafted cherry, everything that pops out from below the ground needs to be removed, because that could just be the rootstock on which it is grafted. And also here in the back I'm removing any small growth. This way I avoid the rootstock getting stronger than the top and the top dying partially. Let's have a look here at the callousing. I know there were concerns with these wounds never healing, but you can see here the bark has grown quite substantially below this cut paste that I put on, and it is now halfway to covering the wounds. I'm not going to peel further because the line here is up to here, but you can see the bark is very nicely starting to cover the wound. In another 1 or 2 years this will completely have closed over, and then as it ages it will get the same color as the rest of the bark and will be hardly noticeable. Summer is over, winter is coming, and oddly enough this tree is in confusion. Look, it's flowering right now, but the twigging is starting to develop. The pruning back has really worked. Most of the pruning scars are closing over. This, I hope, in springtime will look really, really nice. Yeah, let's wait another couple of months and it might start flowering. And now in spring it is really starting to look nice. I'm wiring out a few of these last branches, but look at this, all these flowers. In a few more years of development I'll get lots and lots of branches, lots and lots of flowers, and it will just be gorgeously pink in early spring. So just these young whips, taking 1.5 or 2 millimeters of aluminium will be enough to just give them a light shape, and in 2-3 months these will have set. I'm taking away these little branch buds at the base. And of course this time of the year it's important to be wary of not bumping off any of these buds. I'm not going to wire the whole thing because I'm just going to let this run to thicken up. But the initial shape of the branch needs to be set because I'm going to prune back to that, right? Nice thing about early spring, branches are nice and supple, nice and flexible, and you can put quite good bends in them at this time of year. Crotch growth of course is removed, as well as this frontal, and this here, just cleaning it up as you go. Yeah, pretty pleased with that. I've pruned the top a little bit again because I don't want this to extend all this much. I really want those lower branches to first thicken up a little bit more. But yeah, happy where this is going. A few days have passed and I think it is very clear what I intend to do with this tree. These are going to open over the next few days. This one doesn't have flower buds, this one doesn't have flower buds except for a few here. But over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years I'm going to grow out the canopy to roughly this shape. And lots of fine twigs that fill the canopy. And then it will be full of flowers in early spring. Lovely as can be. Not only is this really doing well, this cherry is actually really producing small little cherries on it. That's so cool. Not too many. And I'm going to have to remove them because I really want to grow the plant out further. It is early May. It's now been, I think, 3 years since I started this tree. It is doing remarkably well. Look at this growth, just long whips coming out. The one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is what I see here. Tiny little holes in the leaf. This is a fungal disease and it causes these little holes. Now I don't know which fungicide to use, so I'll have to look that up. But until I do, I am thinking about completely defoliating this tree. Then I'm going to remove some wire that has been on too long. It is starting to really be swallowed by the branch. This has grown much more than I thought. And then I'm going to give all these branches a gentle wire, bringing it all into shape. And I think that is the last wiring that I'll do on this tree, because all the main branches are there, and from here onwards I think it is just going to be clip and grow to develop it further, and just here and there do a single adjustment. But for most of the tree, that is the wiring. Here you can see how badly the wire has started to push, or actually how much the branch has extended over the wire. I really need to start removing wire here. I think these grooves are still okay, and in a couple of weeks this will have swollen and hopefully you don't see it. You can see the bark is still not damaged, so I think I was right in time. And with the wire gone, it's now time to prune and defoliate, and of course I'm first going to prune and then defoliate. Saves me a bit of work. In the top, I'm keeping them quite short. I don't want a lot of extension growth. I don't want a lot of thickening here. So just a crude profile. Then I'll thin out later on. And at the bottom I want to keep some of the extension, but also not all of them, right? I'm just going to go make it a little bit more suitable for the size that I have in mind. So these little holes, right? So the leaf just gets infected and a little hole occurs. And you see it, all these leaves have these tiny little fungal infections. Now I've sprayed the tree with a general fungal spray earlier this week, but now I'm just going to remove all these infected leaves, actually all of the leaves, hopefully, that way containing the infection to this tree. And I'm removing every single leaf individually and I'm collecting the leaves so that I can just dispose of them and not have them flying around and infecting more trees. Considering there is a big fungal infection in the tree, it is always wise to disinfect your equipment. This is just a general food disinfection spray. It kills fungus, bacteria, etc., etc. And I just spray my tools after this sort of work and just let it air dry just to stop any infections from passing. I think the infection only sits in the leaves, so with this it should be done. I've not used any other tools, and now I can start looking at these branches, remove all these old knobs that are still left there, prune that out, and then thin some of these branches, clean it out a little bit and get a little bit more structure with some wire. Yeah, simple as that, to be honest. Now if we look at a branch like this is very congested, right? This is a front branch. This can come down a little bit more. Then I have a nice branch here, but this here has a very odd shape. It has a lot of branches, but it really doesn't fit anymore if I move this all in place. So I'd like to remove this completely. And a little bit of cut paste here is of value, so it helps to heal this wound a little bit quicker and protect it a little bit from fungal infections. Even though I think it works, there is a little bit of dispute. I do use it. Now with the tree completely bare and pruned out, I can add a little bit of wire, but again, don't go overboard. There's no need to wire every single branch every single time. Just wire the branches that you want to adjust. Just a little cluster like this branch here can dramatically improve by just a little bit of wire. Problem is, of course, you need to make sure that you remove the wire in time. Right, cleaned up, pruned, wired, ready to go back into the sun. I'm hoping for some branch to pop here to fill this space, but otherwise, yeah, it will just have a space here. And now in the next 4 to 6 weeks probably, all these branches, particularly the green ones, will set. So yeah, in 6 weeks to 8 weeks, I will remove all the wire again. By that time it will be completely full with leaves. But this is really getting somewhere. The bones are set.